In today's video, I'll be showing you how to create a series of complementary shape transitions all within inside Adobe After Effects. Once I've shown you how to create the transitions, then I will show you how to transfer these transitions into Adobe Premiere Pro with ease. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. With After Effects opened up, let's go ahead and begin a new composition. Title this one Triangle Transition, and we will set its duration to 2 seconds. Click OK. To create our shape, come to the Shape tool, click and hold, and select the Polygon tool. In your composition, click and hold down Shift to create a polygon. Set the stroke to none by holding down the Alt key and click right up here till you get no stroke. And for fill, we'll go ahead and set it to white for now. Click OK. Now to set the anchor point in the center, you can click Control Alt Home and it puts the anchor point right in the center. And now to put the entire shape in the center, click Control Home and it does just that. Now to make this a triangle, open up Polystar Path 1 and next to point, set it to 3. With Shape Layer 1 selected, click Enter and we'll rename this triangle. And then click R to open up the rotation and set its rotation to 90 degrees. And just to be sure that our shape is in the center, open up the Align tab and align it to center. Next, with your shape layer selected, click S for scale, break the chain, set your X value to 500 and your Y value to 250. With your shape layer still selected, click P for position, and let's make a keyframe at the very beginning. Then for our second keyframe, let's come 1 second and 15 frames in time. Create a keyframe, toggle back to the first keyframe by clicking on this arrow, and then drag your triangle so that it is completely off the screen. At this point, let's toggle down to the last keyframe, and then drag your triangle so that it comes from left to right. Select both keyframes, right click, and make them easy ease. And here's what we have. Now, come to Effects and Presets, search for Drop Shadow, double click, and then search for Fill. Double click. To best see the drop shadow, what we can do is toggle the transparency grid by clicking on this icon here. And then we come up to drop shadow. Let's set the opacity to 60%, distance to say 25, and our softness to 100. Set your fill above drop shadow so that the drop shadow is a black color. And then for fill, we're going to set this to a color of our choosing. Select the eyedropper tool, and we'll go ahead and select this purple right here. Now we're going to duplicate our triangle so we have a total of 7 triangles. With triangles 2 through 7 selected, by holding the Alt key, if you press page down, it moves all selected layers by 1 frame. So what we need to do is offset each of these layers by 5 frames. Once your layers are offset, take this as an opportunity to change the fill color for each of your triangles. And then for our top triangle, the fill color does not matter as that will be the triangle that reveals the next image. Now select your first 6 triangles, click Control Shift C to pre-compose, and we'll go ahead and call this Triangle Transition, and then click OK. And then set the track matte for our pre-composed layer to Alpha Inverted Matte Triangle 7. Then here's what we have. Then if we want to use this in a project in Adobe Premiere Pro, the first step that we need to do is click File, Save As, and then we're going to save this somewhere that we can easily find it. So we'll go ahead and just save this in After Effects project files, click Save, and so then we'll have this project file ready to go for future use. To create a stroke transition, let's grab the pen tool, click a point in the upper right hand corner, then we're going to click another point in the lower left hand corner. By holding down the Alt key, we're going to set the fill to none, and for now we'll keep our stroke where it's at. With Shape Layer 1 selected, click Enter and we'll rename this line. And now let's open up Stroke 1, and for stroke width, we'll create a keyframe at the beginning and set its width to 0. Once we've done that, we'll jump forward to 1 second in time, create a second keyframe, and then we need the stroke to fill up the entire screen. So for that, we'll set its value to 2000. Select both keyframes, right click, and let's make them easy ease. This time, open up the graph editor, right click, and check Edit Speed Graph, and we'll bring the handles inward so that the velocity is at 100% from both directions. So then if we come to the beginning, here's what this looks like. Once we've done that, let's exit the graph editor, and over in Effects and Presets, search up Drop Shadow, double click, and Fill, double click, and then we'll put the fill on top of the drop shadow. Then change your stroke color to a color of your choice, and then we'll move our playhead forward in time, set the transparency, and for our drop shadow, we'll once again make the 60%, set the distance to 10, and softness to 25. With your line layer selected, click Ctrl D to duplicate, hold the Alt key, and press page down 5 times to offset the layer by 5 frames. Change its fill, and then repeat this process so that you have a total of 7 layers. Now that we're back, the fill for the 7th line does not matter, as that will be the layer that reveals the next image. With that said, here's what we have. And now if we select our first 6 lines, click Ctrl-Shift-C, we'll go ahead and call this line transition, and then check the box for where it says adjust composition duration, click OK. And then down here, click on toggle switches and modes so that we see the track matte options, and then set the track matte for our line transition to alpha inverted matte line 7. And now here's what our transition looks like. Now for our square transition, let's open up a new composition, and we'll call it the square transition, and we'll keep its duration to 4 seconds on this one. Click OK. Let's create a square by coming up to the rectangle tool. Click in your composition, hold down Shift to create a square. We'll keep the fill to white and stroke to none. Click Ctrl-Alt-Home to place the anchor point right in the center, and then by clicking Ctrl-Home, that places the entire object in the center of your composition. With Shape Layer 1 selected, click Enter to rename to Square, and then click S for Scale to create a scale keyframe at the beginning, and then we'll jump 2 seconds in time to create another scale keyframe. Go to the very beginning and set the scale value to 0%, and then we'll zoom out a little bit so that we can set our second keyframe so that the square entirely fills up the composition. So we'll go to a round number, say 600. Next, with your layer selected, click R for rotation. We'll go to the very beginning and create a keyframe, and then go back to 2 seconds in time and create an additional keyframe. We'll keep the first keyframe at 0, but let's have the second keyframe be 135. So now here's what we have. Now let's go to Effects and Presets, and we'll add the fill effect, as well as the drop shadow. Turn on your transparency grid, and then set your fill to a color of your choice. We'll zoom in a little bit, so for our drop shadow, we'll set this to 60%, set the distance to 10, and softness to 25. Once that's complete, select your square layer and duplicate this for a total of 7 squares. Once we duplicated our squares, what we'll do is offset each of these by 10 frames, and now change the fill to each of your squares. And then, like in the previous transitions, the top square does not matter, as that will be what reveals the next image. Now select squares 1 through 6, click Ctrl-Shift-C to pre-compose, we'll call this square transition, and then have the box checked for adjust composition duration, click OK. Now set its track matte to alpha inverted matte square 7, and so then here's what we have. Alrighty, and now that we have our transition complete, when we go to save, go File, Save As. We're going to keep all of our transitions in a place so that they're easy to find when we work in Premiere Pro. So we'll call this square transition. And as you can tell, I have the previous transitions that I've shown you already saved in this folder. Click Save, and now we'll head over to Premiere Pro. Alright, so now that we're in Premiere Pro, I've got 4 motion backgrounds in our timeline here. And what we can do is to select everything, right-click, and then click Replace with After Effects Composition. And then automatically After Effects will open up, and now we have that same project now in After Effects. So now to add our transitions, we'll come here to the project panel, double click, and then when we have the After Effects files already saved, we'll select all 3 of them, click Import, and now each one of our transitions is automatically imported into its own folder. And so if we open up the triangle transition, notice that we have 2 compositions. You'll want to take the one on top, as that is the one that includes the one on the bottom. So take the top one, drag it into our project, and then since we know that this transition is 2 seconds in length, what we'll do is come to the 3-second mark, set our transition right there. So now we have that, Now open up our line transition, bring it into our project, and then here's what we have. And finally, we'll open up our square transition, bring that into our project. And since this one's 4 seconds in length, we got to come to 10 seconds in time. Line it up, and here's what we have. Then once everything is said and done in After Effects, let's come back to Premiere Pro. And then everything we just did over in After Effects is automatically applied to our project in Premiere Pro. Once again, thank you very much for sticking around to the end. If you haven't done so already, please help this video out by dropping a like and let me know which transition was your favorite in the comments below. Also, as a free gift to you, please check out the link in the description in which you can download a free project file of all these transitions I just showed you today. And without any further ado, have a good one.